towards our opposition and sold us out.
In the previous episode, we discussed the new Negro philosophy that grew out of Harlem and its connections to the Black Power and civil rights movements of the 50s and 60s. We also highlighted some of the key players in Harlem and how their roles may have began in Harlem, but found their ways to the national stage. Adam Clayton Powell was one of these key players mentioned. His voice was recognized as the most militant persona in politics, and he was endorsed and a close associate of Malcolm X. And as Malcolm once put it, the Harlem Negro is the most intellectually sophisticated Negro in the country. This presumably was contrary to every other type of Negro in the country, but especially the Southern Negro, who was seen by many urban Negroes as weak, docile, slow, uneducated, and barely out of the shackles of slavery. Simply put, Northern Negroes look down upon the Southern Negroes.
Right.
This has more elements than just the Mason-Dixon beef. The philosophical dichotomy between the Northern and Southern Negro would set the stage for the movement, but ultimately, it would be in the South where the biggest battles were fought. In this episode, we detail the era between Reconstruction and the Civil Rights Movement with a specific focus on the Southern Negro as opposed to the Northern Negro or the Harlem Negro. We also detail a brief history of the Ku Klux Klan and how they played a key role in the Civil Rights Movement of the 50s and 60s. In comparison between the Northern and Southern Negroes, the Northern Negroes mostly had Southern roots, but had moved to the Northern cities following Reconstruction, leading up to the Great Migration. The majority of the so-called Black population that lived in the South were actually enslaved indigenous people who had been conquered throughout colonization. These indigenous people would later be classified as African Americans, without any evidence that these millions of people were ever connected to the transatlantic slave trade.
Come on, y'all. I don't know if you've been living under a rock, but most Black Americans have Aboriginal roots. This is not conspiracy. This is not a fringe notion. This is factual. This is documented. This is mainstream. Let me give you guys a quick example of how mainstream, how easily accessible this information is. Let's take a look, shall we? ChatGPT, are you there?
I'm here. How can I help you today?
I'm doing a live broadcast about Native Black American heritage. Can you explain to my audience the reclassification of Black Indian, copper color Indians, dark skinned Indians of not just the southeastern United States, but can you also explain how Black indigenous people were found here by the earliest conquistadors, and maybe even give us some historical quotes or examples of some of the earliest explorers describing these Black Indians?
Sure. The reclassification of Black Native Americans refers to a historical process where indigenous
Mind your business, boy.